Imagine that you wake in darkness, holding the only sharp stone your tribe owns. This stone can cut meat today, but tomorrow it may get you killed silently. You do not have money, walls, locks, screens, or a name on paper yet. You have one object, and suddenly, you have something dangerous to lose in the night. Today, we think objects make life easier, safer, cleaner, faster, and more free somehow. But ancient humans learned a darker truth every time they created something useful for survival. The first possession was not comfort. It was responsibility sitting beside the fire at night. And the question is terrifying. When did tools become masters over human life itself? At first, the world had almost nothing a person could truly keep for long. A stick broke, a fire died, and a heavy object was abandoned on journeys. To survive, people moved light, following animals, seasons, water, and distant smoke across valleys. Too many things made you slow, and slow bodies rarely survive predators after sunset. But the strangest part begins later, when one object becomes worth guarding with violence. A sharp stone turns from tool into treasure because another hand wants it badly. Suddenly, the night is no longer filled only with wolves, hunger, cold, and darkness. It is filled with eyes watching the thing sleeping beside you near the fire. Every invention answered a fear, but every answer opened another fear behind it quietly. A spear made you stronger, then made you terrified of losing it during travel. A warm skin saved your body, then became something others might steal before dawn. Fire pushed darkness back, then forced people to protect one glowing place all night. And here, everything becomes frightening, because objects created the future's first anxiety inside humans. You did not just fear hunger now. You feared tomorrow's possible hunger before it arrived. You did not just fear cold. You feared losing the skin before winter came. You did not just fear strangers. You feared what strangers noticed in your hands. Before possessions, danger came mostly from weather, animals, wounds, and empty stomachs at night. After possessions, danger could come from a neighbor smiling too carefully beside the fire. A beautiful shell, a better blade, a fuller bag could change everything between people. Objects created comparison, and comparison quietly created envy inside the group each night again. But this is only half the story, because useful things became status inside tribes. The person with the better spear was suddenly seen as stronger by everyone nearby. The person with more food spoke louder, while empty hands lowered eyes in silence. Some objects stopped helping survival, yet helped people feel important inside the group again. Rare bones, painted skins, and smooth stones became signals before words were spoken aloud. They said, "This person matters. This family has power. This hunter returns with meat." The object was no longer silent. It began speaking for its owner to everyone. And this changed everything, because identity started attaching itself to possessions people could display. Without the rare thing, a person could feel smaller than yesterday before others watching. With the rare thing, the same person could stand straighter by firelight among witnesses. This ancient feeling still survives, only dressed in glass, metal, and brands today everywhere. We call it modern taste, but it often feels like ancient ranking in disguise. Now imagine the worst possible moment. Your group finally begins storing extra food underground. The pit looks like safety, but it is really fear gathered together beneath earth. You cannot leave easily, because winter, children, and hunger are tied there now forever. A place becomes property when walking away feels more dangerous than staying beside it. First comes the cave, then the camp, then the guarded grain pit nearby outside. Later comes the house, the field, the wall, and the armed gate against strangers. The first cage may not have bars. It may have smelled like grain inside. It looked like victory, but inside that victory, human freedom became heavier than before. But the strangest part begins later, when objects start controlling memory inside communities, slowly. People remembered who gave meat, who took tools, who never returned grain after promises. A stone could become evidence, and a bag could become an accusation between families. Every possession carried a relationship, a debt, a promise, or resentment behind it quietly. Now survival required more than strong legs, sharp eyes, and courage in darkness alone. You needed memory, suspicion, reputation, and the ability to read faces around fires carefully. The most dangerous predator was no longer outside the circle of fire at night. Sometimes it was the hungry person sitting quietly beside your supplies in darkness nearby. And here, everything becomes frightening, because possessions entered the human mind and sleep forever. People began dreaming not only of monsters, but of theft and loss before sunrise. They worried about tomorrow's cold, while sitting beside tonight's warm fire in silence together. They feared invisible futures, because objects made the future feel ownable and fragile suddenly. Sometimes it was the hungry person sitting quietly beside your supplies in darkness nearby. And here, everything becomes frightening, because possessions entered the human mind and sleep forever. People began dreaming not only of monsters, but of theft and loss before sunrise. They worried about tomorrow's cold, while sitting beside tonight's warm fire in silence together. They feared invisible futures, because objects made the future feel ownable and fragile suddenly. The debt must be remembered, the object shown, the inheritance protected from rivals nearby. The thing became an invisible owner of time, attention, labor, and fear each day. Its chain was not iron. It was useful, warm, comfortable progress around the body. But the strangest part begins later, because the trap still looks modern to us.